Nazir Daf Aleph begins the fifth parak. We'll begin with the last line on Daf Lamed, the beginning of the Mishnah. We will discuss the Mishnah, which introduces the topic of somebody who makes hektish. He's makdish an animal or some other material by mistake. And the Gemara will have three ways of understanding what exactly this machlokes is and how it works. So let's begin. The Gemara says if somebody's makdish by mistake, Beis Shammai says it is hektish, Beis Hillel says it's not hektish, and the Mishnah brings three examples. Example number one is if he says the first black ox, the first ox to come out of my house, which is black, is going to be hektish, and a white ox came out first. Beis Shammai says it's hektish, Beis Hillel says it's not. Next case, if he says the coin, which is a dinar zov, a golden dinar which comes up in my hand, is going to be hektish, but a silver dinar came up first, not a golden zov, again, Beis Shammai says it's hektish, and Beis Hillel says it's not. In the third case, if he says the barrel that comes up in my hand, which is going to be a barrel of wine, and it turned out to be oil, again, Beis Shammai says it's hektish, and Beis Hillel says it's not. Now, what exactly is hektish here? Let's go to the case of the ox. Is it the black ox which came out first? Is it the white ox which came out first, or is it the later ox, the first black ox to come out? That's going to be hektish. What does Beis Shammai exactly mean? He said the black ox to come out first, and it turns out a white ox came out first. It's hektish. What's hektish? A white ox or a black ox? What are we talking about here? And what is pshat in Beis Shammai? Why does Beis Shammai hold that it is hektish? And when we know why Beis Shammai holds it's hektish, then we can try to figure out why Beis Hillel holds it's not hektish. So Gemara brings three explanations of this machlokes. Gemara's first explanation is to say that Beis Shammai has exeris hakasav, that hektish by mistake works, and he learns that of tamura. The lachan tamura is if somebody sees an animal that has kedusha on it, it's a carbon, he tries to switch that kedusha onto something else, they both become kodesh, they both become hektish. Now, if he tried to do it, if he intended to do it on one species of animal and ended up accidentally doing it on a different species of animal, it is chal. That's the halacha. So Beis Shammai says we learn hektish that comes on through tamura, what we call secondary hektish, that just like that works if it's on a mistake. Original hektish also works if it's being put on by mistake. Beis Hillel disagrees. Beis Hillel says no, you can't learn from a secondary hektish. A hektish which already exists is easier to transfer than a hektish which you're trying to put on in the first place. That you cannot do at all. So the Gemara therefore says it's a machlokes. Do you learn from tamura to regular hektish? And you compare the two. So now the Gemara asks, according to this understanding, what are we referring to? We're referring to that Beis Shammai seemed to say that the white ox that came out first is the one that's hektish. So the Gemara's kasha is, right, because he meant to go on a different animal, just like by tamura he meant to go on a different animal. And it's chal, here also he meant to go on a different animal, on a black ox, but it's chal on this white ox. So Gemara asks that shouldn't work because what he said never happened. He said the black ox that comes out of my house first. A black ox did not come out of his house. It was not the first one, and this white ox he never said is going to become hektish in the first place. So why should hektish be chal on this black ox? It's very different in the case of tumor, where he just said I want to transfer the hektish, and he meant one animal, and it actually ended up that it was a different animal there. But still, what he said fulfilled. He said I want to transfer the hektish to this animal. There, what he says fulfilled. But here it's like he said, I want to transfer it in the afternoon. And it's not afternoon. So the transfer is not chal. So how can you say that the transfer that he never said should be chal? So the Gemara seems to not like this pshat, and therefore the Gemara brings another understanding of what Beis Shammai really holds and what Beis Shammai argues. And this is Rav Papa. Rav Papa says he was not referring to the white ox that came out first. He's referring to the first black ox to come out. Let's say the first ox is white. Okay, that's not the one. He said the first black ox. So we wait until a black ox comes. When a black ox shows up, the first of the blacks, that's going to be the one that the hektish is chal on. So there's a few kashas here. The Gemara's first kasha is that the Mishnah doesn't seem to mean bedafka if he has multiple black oxes, and he says the first one. Mishnah's pasha is talking about no matter how many black oxen he has. But that doesn't make sense to say the first black ox if he only has one black ox. So Gemara says no, the Mishnah is referring to where he has multiple black oxen, and he's saying the first of the black oxen to come out, the first one, which will be black, that is the one that the hektish is chal on. Now, what does Beis Hillel hold? So Beis Hillel says the language here is wrong. He said, Rishon l'cheshayetze. the first black ox which comes out. If he meant to say the first of the black oxen, he should have said sheyetze bari shani, the first black ox, first of the black oxen, the first black ox which comes out first. That's what he should have said, and it's a different language. It's not what he said, and therefore it's not exactly correct, and it's not what is meant, and therefore Beis Hillel disagrees. Then it says that it's not chal. Now, the Gemara asks Sakasha that what does this have to do with mistaken hektish? There's no mistake here. He said the first ox that comes out, which is black, first black ox, and he meant the first of the oxen, which happens to be black, and that's what it is. There's no mistake. Where's the error? The word says it's not really a mistake. When we say ta'is, the word that's used doesn't mean a mistake. It means to misinterpret. He's correcting the simple understanding of what he said. When he said the first black ox to come out, the Pasha Pshat is that he meant the first ox which he's predicting will be black. And what he actually meant is the first of the oxen which happens to be black, not necessarily the first ox, but the first one that's black. That is a atiyeh b'dibur. It's a twisting of what he said. All right. Now the Gemara's next kasha is that according to Papa's Pshat, Beis Shammai does not really hold that a mistaken hektish is chal. Beis Shammai really holds a mistaken hektish is not chal. When we said that this mistaken, when he said hektish b'tais is chal, it meant where he has to explain to you what he meant, and it's not what we thought. But an actual mistake is not going to be chal. Remember, there's a kasha therefore, because we have a couple of proofs that Beis Shammai actually does hold that a mistaken hektish is chal. So Gemara brings those proofs. Gemara's first proof is from a Mishnah. Somebody says that he wants to be a Nazir. He makes a neder Nazirus, and then he asks the Chacham for a heter, and the Chacham gives him a heter, but he already had an animal set aside for his karbana. So the halacha is that animal could go and graze. It reverts to perfect chulin, according to Beis Hillel. But Beis Shammai said not, and Beis Hillel said, "Aren't you moided to me? Don't you agree that since it was a hektish as a mistake, because he never meant, right? They gave him a heter. The only way you could get a heter on a nazir, according to Beis Hillel, is if they found a mistake. You can't just say you regret it. So since his original neder was a mistake, it should take off the kedusha that was there and should never be considered like a kedusha at all. So Beis Hillel is saying you should be minded to me because it's a mistake." So the Gemara says that obviously from Beis Hillel you see what Beis Shammai held, and Beis Shammai held that hektish, which is a mistake, is really hektish. It is hektish, and Beis Hillel is arguing that it's a mistake, so therefore it shouldn't be. So we do see from here that Beis Shammai holds that hektish, that's a mistake, is hektish, and you're telling me that Beis Shammai really holds it's not. So my answer is no. Beis Hillel misunderstood. Chizu will say Beis Hillel said that argument because Beis Hillel assumed that Beis Shammai held that way. It's not really what Beis Shammai held. Really, Beis Shammai holds the hektish, which is a mistake, is not hektish. And the real reason is because that's atiyeh l'dibur, because he changes what his word means. That's what Beis Shammai holds. The Gemara's second proof is from an interesting case. You have 6 people walking together, and they see someone approaching. And from the distance where he's too far away to be able to tell who he is, they start to make a bet as to who he is. So the first one says, I'm so sure that that's Ruvain, and I'm going to emphasize that that's Ruvain, I'm going to make a neder of Nazirus. If that's Ruvain, I'm a Nazir. And the second guy says, if that's not Ruvain, I'm a Nazir. Now, it either is Ruvain or it's not Ruvain, so they can't both be Nazirim. They can't both be right, at least. And the third one says, I'm going to be a Nazir if one of you turns out to be a Nazir. It would seem to be that he's for sure going to be a Nazir, because one of them has to be a Nazir. The fourth guy says, I'm going to be a Nazir if none of you are Nazir. It would seem that can't possibly be, because it has to be either Ruvain or not Ruvain. And then the fifth guy says, I'm going to be a Nazir if neither of you are Nazir. And the last guy says, I'm going to be a Nazir if all of you are Nazir. That would also seem to be impossible, because you can't all be Nazir. The first two can't both be Nazir. So what does Beis Shammai paskin? Beis Shammai says all 6 of them are Nazir. The rest says, how's that possible? So obviously the explanation is that they all said they're going to be Nazirim based on a mistake. They thought that they could be Nazirim all at once they each thought that it's possible that their Naziris makes sense, and it turns out that it did not make sense. And on that, Beis Shammai is saying that even though it's a mistake, it's based on a mistake, the Naziris is all chal anyway. So you see that Beis Shammai holds that Naziris that's by mistake is chal. So the Gemara agrees. The Gemara says you're right. Beis Shammai does agree that Naziris is chal, even though it's a mistake. Hektish is chal on a mistake. But that's not the pshat in this Mishnah, according to Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda wants to say a different pshat in this Mishnah. It's not the reason. It's not what they were saying here. They were saying something else. All right. That's the second pshat on what the machlekes is. This is Rav Chisda's pshat. Now the Gemara brings the third pshat on what this machlekes is. This is Abaye. And Abaye says, actually, this Mishnah should be read in the past tense. He's not in the morning before any ox left his house, and he's saying the ox which comes out first, the black ox that comes out first should be hektish. He's in the afternoon. The ox already left. He thought it was the black one. So he said the black ox which came out of my house is hektish. And they tell him it wasn't a black ox that came out of your house. It was a white ox that came out of your house. And the question is, then he says, I would have known that it would be a white one. I would not have said the black one. Meaning he says, I just meant to say the first one. I didn't mean to say I didn't mean to restrict myself to the black one. I thought it was a black one, but I'd be very happy for it to be the white one. I just thought I was identifying it correctly. It turns out that it was incorrect. So on that, Beis Shammai says his kavana was to be makdish that ox that came out first, and therefore the hektish is chal. So Gemara asks two questions. The Mishnah in the second case clearly uses future tense. It says the dinar coin which will come up first in my hand. So Gemara says change it. It has to be which came up already. And then it says in the third case, it says the barrel of wine which will come up in my hand. Gemara says again change it. It has to be the one which came up already. Okay. Now the Gemara has another question. Gemara quotes Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says that a black in white is a plague, it's bad, and a white in black is a plague and is bad as well. Meaning a black ox in a white herd devalues the herd because a black ox is worth less than a white ox. Or a white spot on a black ox is a problem because it devalues the ox. So that means to show clearly that a black ox is less valuable than a white ox. Now generally we assume when somebody's makdish, he means to be makdish as stingily as he could. So if a person says black ox, and we want to touch up what he means, we should assume that he meant the black one and not the white one, because black are cheaper, and he probably wanted to be makdish the cheaper one. So how can we assume that when he said black ox that comes out first, he meant the white one? That can't be. We should always interpret it as referring to the cheapest thing. So how could Rav Chisda say that the black one is cheaper than the white one? And now we're explaining Beis Shammai that when he said the black ox that came out first, and then he says, I meant the white one, I just accidentally said the black one because I thought it was the black one, that's really what he meant. It's not true. When people say they always meant the cheaper, so he must have meant the black one. So Gemara says, maybe tell me no, people mean the better one, and therefore when he says I meant the white one, he meant the white one. Gemara says the problem is, you look at the next case of the Mishnah, he clearly says he meant the cheaper one. He pulled out a coin, he said the gold coin which will come out, and then he said I meant the silver one. The actual one that came out was silver, and he meant the silver one. So you do see there clearly that a person means the cheaper one. Someone says, hold on a second. But look at the next case. There, he pulled out a bottle of oil, and he thought he was taking wine, and he said that he means it. He meant the oil. Obviously, oil is better than wine, and therefore he means a more expensive one. So you could go either way with this. And this is not a kasha in and of itself. The only problem is the ratio, the first case. How could we interpret what he's saying as refer to the cheaper ox? So the Gemara says, okay, it's not a kasha, it's actually a more expensive ox. Here we're talking about a black ox that's a special breed called a karmanoi ox. Those are more expensive even when they're black. So the Gemara now has this kasha. We have a seer of Chisda. Rav Chisda here says that black is worse, but there's a different member of Chisda where he says that black has more valuable skin, red has more valuable meat, and white has more valuable plowing. So you see the black is more valuable in a sense. The Gemara says again, that's talking about karmanoi oxen, not regular oxen. We now end off with our next Mishnah, which continues from the first Mishnah, where we saw Machlokes Beis Hillel Beis Shammai whether hektish that's a mistake is chal or not, and Beis Shammai said hektish that's a mistake is chal. The Gemara now discusses what happens if somebody was makdish animals for Naziris, which is cancelled. So the Mishnah says somebody who made a vow of Naziris and he violated it, and he goes and he asks the Chacham for a heter, and the Chacham says no heter. So the halacha is he continues counting. His Naziris remains as if nothing happened. Now, if the Chacham gives him a heter, so then his Naziris is uprooted and cancelled in Mafreya. So it was a mistake. So even if he had Karbanis set aside, those Karbanis lose their Kedusha, they become Chulin, and they can leave and enter the herd like anyone else, and they're fine. Now, Beis Hillel says to Beis Shammai, you said in the previous case that Hektish by mistake becomes Hektish. Here you must agree that Hektish, which is a mistake, is not Hektish, because he was Makdish his animal, because he thought he's a Nazir, and he's Chayav Karbanis, and here he's not. So you should agree. And this is the Mishnah which we saw quoted earlier as a proof that Beis Shammai holds that Hektish B'tois is not Hektish. The Hektish B'tois is Hektish. So the Gemara says that was Beis Hillel's taina to Beis Shammai, and Beis Shammai said no. Beis Shammai said, I'll bring you a proof that Hektish that's by mistake is Hektish. Where do you see that? Meiser Behema, somebody counts animals as they pass in or out of the corral, and he crosses them under his staff, and the 10th one, he says number 10, and it's Hektish. Now what happens if he gets mixed up in his counting, and he calls number 9 Asiri, the 9th one he calls 10, or the 11th one he calls 10, so the halacha is that those are Hektish. They have Kedusha as well. So you see, Hektish B'tois is Chala Hektish. The Basil says no, it's not. That has nothing to do with Hektish B'tois. There you have Exeris Akasif that says that just like the 10th one is Hektish, even if you don't call it number 10, when you call number 9 number 10, or you call number 11 number 10, they're Hektish also because you call them number 10. And the proof is that if you call number 8 10 or number 12 10, it would not be Chal, because in that there's no Exeris Akasif. So this has nothing to do with Hektish B'tois. This is a special Exeris Akasif that it's Chal if you call 9 or 11 10.